We need a different solution. It needs to be a higher bridge, something where it allows more marine traffic. We have a lot of marine industry that is west of the bridge, and Indiantown Marine Center in particular is bringing in those big yachts. And even this new bridge they're putting in is not going to be helpful at all. And, this is a lot of jobs to our area. They bring taxes to our area, a lot of benefit, the marine industry. So they're asking, please write or contact the Secretary Department of Transportation, U.S. Department of Transportation. You can call them at 202-366-4000 or write them at 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C. 20590. You also heard a little bit of Susie Nash, and I always say you can catch her up at Archie Seabreeze in Fort Pierce, but she is on tour right now. So got to wait a few months, but boy, does she have a fantastic voice. And lastly, folks, hurricane season's right around the corner. So you want to go down to Indiantown Marina, which is close to Indiantown Marine Center, and they can take care of you. Make sure you make your reservations now, because I'm here to tell you, if you don't make them now and a storm is named, you are not going to find a place to keep your boat here in town. It's just, it fills up so quickly. So now I want to get to the star of the show this half hour. It's Laura Giobbi. She is running for Group 2 City Commission of Stuart. Like many Floridians, her journey began in Brooklyn, New York, where she met and married her husband. They moved to a quaint Connecticut town where they raised their child. As time passed, they longed for experience the vibrant Florida lifestyle, so they began searching for a town that embodied small town charm. It was in Stuart that they discovered their perfect match. They instantly fell in love with the incredible community and never looked back. Their life here is filled with joy, and they deeply appreciate the need to preserve its exceptional quality for future generations. With 3 precious grandchildren, it is their utmost desire for them to witness this place remain unique and understand its citizens' unwavering dedication to protecting it. Laura had a fulfilling career in the life insurance industry and dedicated many years of service in the VA hospital system, where she gained valuable experience in management and caring for others. Additionally, she served as the board president of her condominium association for a period of 5 years. She began attending regular commission meetings, and during this time, she became increasingly concerned about the approval of large-scale developments and the widespread exceptions granted by the commission. In 2022, Laura Giobbi was appointed to the local planning advisory board, where she furthered her understanding of the city's growth. Today, there's a lone voice on the commission speaking for the citizens of Stuart. It became evident that our community lacked strong representation on the board, as the majority seemed to prioritize the interests of developers over those of the community. This realization motivated Laura to enter the race for a seat on the commission, aiming to change the dynamics and advocate for our community's needs and concerns. Laura, welcome to the studio today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. I always like to make sure I give a platform to everybody that commits themselves to running to office. It's something that makes us special here in America. And if you don't like something, the way something's being done, that's what you do, is file for a position and see if you can change it yourself. So congratulations on your run here. And we want to just find out a little bit more about you. What's motivated you to run for a city commission in Stuart's Group 2?
Well, several years ago, I became very concerned with the overdevelopment. Basically, I'm not a no-growth person. Development is necessary for any town or city. It's how you survive. You cannot stay stagnant. But what has taken place here in the last 8 years is growth on steroids, with no consideration for infrastructure and the surrounding areas. So this led me to go to many commission meetings, both at the county and the city level. At first, I have to say there were not many people attending, but then as people started to become aware of what projects were taking place and all of these yellow and blue signs popping up all over every road, people started to attend and voice their opinion, and loudly. And twice a month they meet. Time after time, what would happen is, even though there was a strong voice in the community, in the room, people calling in and giving objection to these projects, you had a 4-to-1 vote. It was always 4 of the commissioners in favor of the development and 1 lone vote saying no. Eventually, I did a lot to help other people campaign, and I could see that if we didn't change the composite of the commissions, nothing would change. So we need to have where we have a 3-to-2 vote in favor of the community, not the developers.
And they are the ultimate vote. So the commission is the ultimate decision maker. So that's where you are tackling it really from the top. You were serving on the LPA, so tell us a little bit about that because you saw a lot of these projects come through first through the LPA, and what did you notice as you're sitting on that board?
Well, I have to be honest, I got an education overnight in city development. And what I did learn is that if you're a buyer and you buy a piece of property, you have the right to develop it. If you're developing that property within its zoning and guidelines, you don't need to come before any commission or any advisory board. You go down to town, you get into the permit department, you put in for your permit, and you build. Everything that came before the LPA, which was then an advisory board, we had no powers, but we gave advice to the commission saying we've looked at all the records. This appears to be not a good fit for us, or a good fit. And so what would happen is you would find people coming forward and saying, well, I purchased this piece of property which is commercial. I'm now coming before the advisory board asking for an exception. I'd like to change the zoning to multifamily. And my question always was, well, if you bought commercial, why are you not building commercial? Which kind of to me was a little, why would they do that? Invest money not knowing that they would get an approval to go to multi-housing. And it even goes beyond that at one point.
So they were buying first before
Yeah, they were
they
buying
had the
first
approvals.
before they had any approval. So
Yeah.
that to me is like, why would you invest that kind of money if you weren't sure that you'd be able to do this multi-housing?
Right.
So that made me a little suspicious. And then I was not very popular, I don't think, because of course I was the lone voice questioning and wanting to know why. And at one point, I did make people laugh because someone came before us and said, well, I also want to change the parking regulations because in this town you have to provide parking for what you're building.
Right.
And they were asking for a half a parking space versus a full parking space. And I just leaned over the dais. I said, you show me half a car, I'll give you half a space. So
Makes sense to me.
it really does. But again, I was overruled. It was, a lone vote of one. And so that, that just made me upset because I didn't see, no matter how much you go to commission meetings, no matter how much you voice your opinion on Facebook or write to them or even email the commissioners, their minds were already preset as far as I was concerned. The votes were all in the favor of the developer. I think the last over the top for me was the development downtown in line with Brightline coming. The town and the county committed to providing a parking garage and paying for half a station for a private entity. This is a private entity. Why are tax dollars being used to supplement their venture?
Amen, Laura. I was going to ask you about that. Everybody knows my stance on the train and the station, and the city of Stuart's being asked $30 million of that. Everybody says there's going to be grants, but have they gotten grants yet?
Well, they don't have grants, but grants unfortunately tie us into other entities where we're a little controlled by that money we take. So yes, it's great to have the grant. It's a little less on the taxpayer, and it could rise as high as $45 million because, as we all know, any budgeted item may go over a budget if it's delayed, if cost of goods go up. Anything with contractors hiring people that they may have to hire additional people. So that $30 million is not set in stone. That's number one. And as a Stuart resident in the town, we get hit with the double whammy of having to pay our taxes for that entity, and the county promised half the money for the station. So aren't we lucky?
Yeah, you really ended up carrying the bulk of the water there. So, it really was astounding to me. It's disappointing to me that my county, that we fought so hard against this private entity using tax dollars, we end up giving them one of the highest tax dollars there is along the line, especially for such small communities. And grants are still tax dollars, whether they're local or not. That's the other thing that I wanted to point out to folks. I mean, grants are not free money. They never are. So, that's one thing as a commissioner. I appreciate your voice on that. Commissioner Collins was the other one that had voted no. And, recently there was a letter sent to the county commission involving the city as well, but they're looking for bonds to finance this. So, if grants don't come, it's going to be bonds, and there's different years, but it's going to cost a lot more than that $30 million to the city if you have to go that route. So there's a lot of unknowns with the Bright Line.
Right. Absolutely sits on the taxpayer. And then I believe it's a month ago they passed the ordinance, or they gave permission for a Hilton to be right at the beginning of historic downtown. I don't think it was an appropriate building for historic downtown. I even went as far as to find out who the person at Hilton was in charge of the Southeast. I did have a conversation with him. He had visited Stuart, but it all comes down to money and price point. Basically, he said that true blue Hilton that was picked was because the price point was less. Because I said you have many boutique. I'm a Hilton Honors Reward member for years. They have many boutique hotels across the country that would have fit better in line with the historic downtown. But it was all about price point because those are bigger rooms,
More expensive.
more expensive. And my own personal opinion, I have no background on this, but I feel a lot of people will be coming to town taking advantage of a low cost hotel room, spending maybe a night or two in Stuart, taking the Bright Line up to Orlando, spending a week there, and they're not going to spend much money here. So they'll utilize our parking, our downtown for a day or so, and then go up and enjoy their time in Orlando for a week or two. Come back, pick up their car, and go home. So I don't know how much this hotel and the Bright Line benefit Stuart.
So just how would you be as a commissioner, the Casco debacle? And I do call it a debacle because that is something that has been such a divisive issue in the community. Whether you're for it or against it, there's people on both sides. But where did you stand on that?
I'm not against a Costco. I like Costco. It's a great place. That was not the place for a Costco. Number one, you're invading wetlands. You're close to a school. And what I really objected to was the 368 apartments that came along with it, the 18 gas pumps, and the strip mall. So it wasn't just about Costco. So everyone was, oh, you're against Costco. How could you be that? We need a place to shop. Well, no, we don't need all the other entities that come with it. And if Costco wanted to be here, they certainly could have found a better piece of property. And there are pieces of property all over Stuart that would not be in a major thoroughfare like Canner and Monterey and all of those that are, you've been there at 4 o'clock. Most Stuart people avoid Canner Highway. They avoid the Roosevelt Bridge anywhere from 4 o'clock to 6.
Again, we're speaking with Laura Giobbi. She is running for City of Stuart Commission Group 2. So, Laura, there's just so many different issues here. Traffic is another one. And I have to say, this morning was the first time I came into the station and the traffic was lighter. So I can tell a lot of our snowbirds have left. However, it's still a lot of traffic. And, you know, one of the things that comes with the building, the residents, is more traffic, but also there's a lot more people that have moved into St. Lucie County that travel through Stuart. We have our thoroughfare US 1. So there's a lot of issues here, and it's a tough thing to tackle. It's something everybody complains about, but, you know, how do you tackle that issue at this point? The apartments are built. City of Stuart's pretty much built out, right? They're traveling down from St. Lucie County down south where it might be jobs or work. It's just the traffic's here. So it's an argument you have to deal with. But what do you say?
Well, just passed, a lot of these apartments and units were approved in the guides of providing affordable housing to people who commute into Stuart from the surrounding areas. Unfortunately, they didn't build affordable housing. I mean, people who come into the city are not making enough money to pay $2,000 and $3,000 rent for a 1 or 2 bedroom. I mean, these are small units with 1 parking space. So you've already let the horse out of the barn. I don't know, really, honestly, I haven't had the time to sit and think, but there has to be a solution, because no matter where you live, and I've lived in New York City, I've lived in Brooklyn, those places are all, quote unquote, what people here consider big cities, but they're all little neighborhoods. And they're all fed by metropolitans around them, where there's thoroughfares, mass transit, buses coming into the city or Brooklyn for people who work outside or live outside of those areas. So that might be a way that we really address that in a real transit system that comes from St. Lucie to Stuart to provide transportation for those who live out of the city and come in here to work. You have to be certainly a really good schedule. It can't be something that's once every 2 hours. People are not going to wait 25 minutes for a bus and then wait 25 minutes more. If they miss the bus, they have to wait almost an hour to get home. I mean, that's not feasible. Everyone's going to jump in their car. Makes sense. There's carpooling. There's lots of things that can be addressed, but you need to be in a position of power to even address those.
And that's the voice that you hope to bring to the table. And, you know, affordable housing, I have to say, what we consider affordable is an absolute joke. You know, it truly is. I don't know who it's affordable to, but it's not for the average person that's working here. So,
well, I think the city has been sold a bill of goods by builders, and the last was, of course, that SB 102 from the state mandate, which I sent a letter up to the state capitol. Florida is a diverse state. if you want to live rural, there's places to live rural. We have beautiful country, horse, cows, whatever that you can enjoy, nature. If you want to live suburban, there's towns like Stuart. There's other, Port Salerno, places that you can enjoy, little seaside villages. They all offer something. But if you want to live urban, you could go to Tampa, Miami, Jacksonville, Tallahassee. True. There's no reason to make the whole state of Florida one big urban city. I mean, changing Stuart to an urban city just makes us one of a million other cities. Nothing spectacular, nothing unique as what we're used to being.
So tell me, as a commissioner as well, how do you feel about government-owned businesses and properties? I know the city of Stuart owns a lot of property that they lease out to different businesses. We have Hudson's on the River. That's a city-owned property. I am losing my mind here. It's Waterfront. Trying to think what it's called now. Very good restaurant, but Waterfront. There's the car wash, I think, on the corner of Cantor Monterey. But there's different locations. So, as an elected official, where do you draw the line of government-owned entities versus privately owned?
First, I'm going to tell you how I feel about it as a citizen. I don't own a business here, but if I did, I would look to my local government to be providing help to my business, to promote the city, promote the county. That is what government is for. It is to promote your local businesses. Why we are in competition with our local businesses is beyond my comprehension. It requires more staff. We have the Parks Department, they're at a point where they're doing the Stuart Cafe, I forget what it's called, down at the beach.
Yes.
So we have that. The latest, and it's not in city of Stuart, but the latest was the moorings, which is really not for the people of that town. It's for individuals coming from out of town.
Right.
So at what point are we going to do our civic duty and support our local businesses rather than be in competition with them? If we own land, then lease it out. Have one person who's in charge of that lease, making sure that they do their due diligence to provide an excellent service to the community. I don't think we should be running businesses. It's not what our business is. Our business is supporting the community.
I'd like you just to reach out for 1 second and speak to the marine industry, because I understand, the bridge is here in Stuart, but the marine industry is out of the city. We have quite a few marinas that are west of the bridge. Can you just speak to those folks, even though they can't vote for you, how you view the marine industry west of the bridge?
How I view it in what sense? I think it's vital to the area. We're a coastal town.
In relation to the bridge, the city of Stuart controls really the bridge, whether we fund it, whether we can upgrade it, replace it. What type of voice would you be on the commission for our marine industry? And I say particularly those the west of the bridge, because that's who's impacted by it.
Right. I think the bridge needs to be accessible to the marine industry. We have people, as you said, these are tourists, these are people who come, just local people who boat. They need to have access. Waiting an hour for a train to pass or a bridge to go up, and now, as you had stated, it's not even the level is not even for all boats. Right. We need to step back, have someone of some knowledge look at this, look at the construction, who's paying for it, and if they are, we need to control how it affects our industry, whether it's in the town of Stuart or the surrounding area, which is coming into Stuart or bypassing through those lanes.
100% appreciate that. The other thing is, of course, we just talked about it, but all the housing and the building that's went up. There's a lot of folks in the county that they either blame the county for all the building or the city for all the building. And a lot of these properties are either on the other side of the line. So you might be in the city going, why did you guys approve all this? And it's in the county, or vice versa. How do you educate folks about what is going on within actually the city? Because the city does not have exactly a straight boundary line, right?
It doesn't, and I have to say there, and I just found out recently, we're not allowed to reject
annex.
We're not allowed to reject an annex. So if the county says, well, we're going to annex a piece of property into you, because it either benefits the developer in what he can then or she can then develop, because now it's into the city lines. So I don't know that we can ever have control over the fact that they're being annexed, but we do have control to say no to what they're asking in exceptions. And I really think if you start to have a commission where they're saying, well, no, we've looked into this and we're not going to do exceptions on our parking. We're not going to change from commercial to multi-housing. We're not going to change from single housing to multi-housing. We're never going to go above the fourth floor level, which I know there's always talk of that and a great fear. And once developers realize that the town isn't here for picking and develop our last blade of grass that we have, they're going to move on. This is not going to be beneficial for them. And I would always suggest, because I really believe we need housing, but I think we have enough apartments for people. There's townhomes, condos. But I think we need some really single family homes, starter homes where, people who are just having maybe a small family, and a lot of them have stayed in their starter homes. They had 1 or 2 children. They've been raised here in Stuart. They love it here. They're generational, and they like to stay here. But that's becoming almost impossible. When a city grows past the point that it's local people, and it's people who have been here generational can no longer afford to be here, something is wrong. Something needs to change at the top.
And that is something we're seeing now, and it's really, I've seen it more the last couple of years more than any time before in my life, that locals that grew up here, they can no longer afford to live here. I think what's going to be coming here in the future in the city of Stuart is not new development. I think we're pretty much built out. There's not a lot of land available, just a few parcels here and there, but it's going to be redevelopment. So I think you're going to have a lot of different developers, and it's all going to be dollars and cents, right, that are going to come to the table. One thing with SB 012, the Live Local Act, is the commercial properties now can be built as multifamily as long as they have a certain percentage that's affordable. We've already discussed affordable is really not that affordable. So as a commissioner, it's going to be a lot of things on your table, and I'd be excited to see how those are going to be addressed for somebody like yourself. I mean, all 5 of you are going to be on that dais. How do you address the Live Local Act that already has said, even if it's commercial, they have to, they can build it without your approval?
They can. The whole idea about affordable housing is that they promise there's a percentage under that SB 102 that allows them to give 40% to the town. I lived in a town that did something similar, and 30 years later, there was never any affordable housing. In fact, the apartments they're building today are $8,000 a month. So affordable's out the window, but it allowed them to circumvent any of the zoning laws. So they invaded wetlands, they invaded, the zoning you need from street to... I mean, we had a place built, the fire trucks couldn't go underneath where the parking was.
Crazy.
But it didn't matter. The reality is, the question I have for them, who is going to monitor those 40% of people? Is the owner going to monitor it, or the town then going to be in the position to monitor at what point are you no longer available?
That's an excellent question.
For that apartment.
Laura, that's an excellent question, one that a lot of people have brought up, and I agree with you. We put that caveat on there, there's this rule, and, who is going to monitor that?
We don't know, but I want to say one last thing. Recently, and I think it's SB 132 has come out stating, and I haven't checked the validity of this, that because most of Stuart is within so much area of the airport, that would not be allowed to be built. Those large complexes would not be allowed to be built. But that's only something I just found out recently. I'd have to really check into that to see if that's valid.
Okay.
And that would help us in a lot of ways.
Perfect. How would you address the affordable housing issue? That's something, we've talked about a lot already, but how would you address it?
Well, I don't really feel that government should be providing affordable housing. There are so many nonprofit entities out there. There are organizations, there's the veterans, there's Tunnel to Towers. These are all people willing to help people in need and provide housing for them. Would help our community, would help people living here, coming into the community, but not at the expense of the taxpayer's dollar. Taxpayers, if they'd like, can give to all those communities and make those work. And they have the choice to donate to those communities versus being told, well, it's coming out of your tax dollars and you really don't have a choice. I think we should be more in command of how our tax dollars are used.
And speaking of that, I think of something, different ways that the commission supports different community organizations. Stuart Main Street's one of them. I'm going to put it right out there. The Flagler Place is something they get very reasonably. I'm not even sure if they pay for it, to be honest with you, but it's extremely reasonable rent. Is that something you as a commissioner agree with, or do you look at a property like that even though it's old and needs a lot of work. Where is your stance on that? That's something that comes up to the commission, every so often for
It does,
lease renewal.
and I'm still looking into it. I think that certainly if we do own property, it should be profitable to us. And I think that that's really what should happen. It should be profitable, that the town and the taxpayers are gaining from that property that's owned by us. Um,
And finally, here with the city of Stuart, what is your vision for the city? I think I have an idea from what you've already said. With the hotel approval, you would not have supported that
No.
because it's not a boutique type of hotel. You don't feel like it fits into the atmosphere of
And one point I
Stuart.
want to make, they were given an exemption for no parking. They have no parking spaces at that facility, and that's not just a hotel, it's a restaurant and a bit of a strip mall.
So there's the exemptions that was given, and that's your time to be able to negotiate with the developer of what goes there.
But that didn't happen.
But that didn't happen, and that's where Laura's going to come in, and she will be one to be a voice of negotiation there.
Yes.
So other than that, we have just about a minute left over. What is your final thoughts? How can people reach out to you, support you, look you up, find out more about your candidacy?
You can reach me at my email is info@votegiobbi.com. Please reach out to me. I'll answer you back. Go to my website, which is Vote Giobbi, and leave a message. Or I think I don't have my phone number. I mistakenly didn't take it with me and haven't memorized it as of yet. But it will be on that website, and you can give me a call, and I'll gladly answer back, and willing to discuss anything that you'd like, and in any way that I can help. And I hope that you see a need to change the composite of the commissions in the town of Stuart, so that we can move forward for our residents.
And that's what elections are about. This is our chance, folks. If you like the way things are going, you vote a certain way. If you want change, you vote another way. And that vote is going to be August 20th here for the city of Stuart, and then also the primary here for the county. Most of our local elections will be decided that day. So super important. Make sure you're registered to vote. And make sure that you get out there and meet these candidates. And Laura, it's been such a pleasure to have you in the studio today. I really gained a lot of insight of where you stand and what what vision you would see for the city. And again, being part of that land planning association.
The advisory board.
Advisory
the
board, yes,
Yes.
the LPA, yes. I think that has given you a lot of insight into the city that brought you here today.
And I appreciate you giving me a voice today. Thank you so much.
Always my pleasure. We have the Meet Your Candidate series, and I'll have as many on as that want to come on between now and August 20th. Again, your vote, it really is important. It matters. Main thing is make sure you are registered to vote. You can check that out at martinvotes.org and make sure you're registered. That is all we have for this week. Laura Giobbi, Commission, City of Stuart, Group 2.
Thank you.
Thank you.